What is up, SVS family? Welcome to another SVS Audiophile Happy Hour. I, of course, am Nick, VP of Marketing with SVS, here with my compatriot, Larry Magoo, our National Training Manager. How are you, Larry?
I am great. It is so cool to be out here on the road with you, sir.
And to our side, we have President of SVS, Gary Yakubian. Gary, how are you?
Exiled in a hotel room yet again while you guys are at the trade show. What is going on here?
We get to have all the fun.
I'm getting a complex.
All good. And of course, we have our Director of Technology as well, Ed Mullen, the Wizard of AV. How are you doing, Ed?
Exiled yet again to my office.
We expect that.
I think you love it there.
Our theory is that Ed's locked in a basement. We don't know who's keeping him there.
It's true.
Well, you do good work from your dungeon down there. I'll tell you that much, Ed.
Gladiator keeps me company.
So we obviously have a different backdrop, Larry and I, here, because we are doing a special broadcast from the largest audio video show in the Midwest, billed as the MWAVE show, Midwest AV Experience. And this was the product of Youthman, one of the most popular YouTubers who covers all this sorts of stuff and reviews a whole bunch of gear, as well as one of his partners. So we're going to have him join us in just a couple minutes. He's actually in transit, and I'll let him explain why he's in transit. But we did want to get him in on the interview front here first before we dive into our normal fun that we have on the Audiophile Happy Hour. But we still will have giveaways tonight, and we'll get to those here in a little bit, and we'll stick with our normal theme. But without further ado, you guys cool if I bring Youthman on? He's sitting in the waiting room.
Yeah,
he's riding.
yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're here in Kansas City, so let's welcome Youthman to the program. How you doing, Youthman?
Hey, what is going on, fellas? So glad to be here. We're excited.
Oh,
we are driving and doing this with us. This is the consummate pro.
This is it, man. So we are in transit. So today we are with our VIP Gold and VIP Platinum, and we've actually visited 2 home theaters in the Kansas City area. And so we spent about 3 hours at each home. And so now we're traveling to our 3rd location. And then we got one more this evening, which will go probably till about, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, maybe even longer.
I want to get to this because this is a pretty unique thing that you're doing here. But before we start on the sort of secondary elements of these home theater tours, tell us a little bit about what your inspiration and why you thought having MWAVE in the Kansas City area would be such a good idea.
Sure. So I did a home theater tour probably about a year ago, and I did 9 home theater tours in 3 days. And one of those tours was a gentleman by the name of Ryan Charpentier. And so Ryan invited me to come back about a month later to do a projector shootout. And so I thought that'd be super cool. Came back up here. So we hung out for the weekend, and I just had the most amazing time hanging out with home theater enthusiasts, just really looking at projectors side by side. We had JVC, we had Sony, probably about 8 projectors in all. And after the event, I just told Ryan, I said, this was so much fun. We've got to do this every year. This will just be great. And we began to brainstorm, like, how would we get more people involved? Because we can only fit like 30 people in his basement. So is there a way that we can invite my audience to something like this and let them experience, these side-by-side comparisons? And so that's where the heartbeat of MWAVE began. And so we started January of 2022 thinking about it. That's when the projector shootout was. 6 months later, we actually hosted the very first MWAVE in Kansas City. And so the thought was, well, there's a bunch of guys that have great home theaters, and so we'll offer that to some of our attendees. And so we set up that. At the show, we're going to have a bunch of great, brands such as SVS. We're super pumped that you guys are there with NFM. Got lots of cool things. We've got seminars. We've got experience.
I did want to riff on that. Something a little different about your show. So many of the shows that we go to are these just straight up 2-channel shows, and we are sort of like the oasis of home theater there. One of the unique things I think about MWAVE is you're getting multi-channel in almost every single room, and you may experience some 2-channel, but this, as far as I know, there is no other show that focuses on home theater, surround sound, Atmos, big subwoofers like the MWAVE show. Is that a fair statement?
100%. That's just part of my heartbeat. I've been in a home theater enthusiast since I was, back in the days of Dolby Pro Logic, And so I'm mostly home theater on my channel, and I would go to shows, and I would go room by room, and it was mostly 2-channel, and it was super exciting. I went to Florida Audio Expo this year, and guess what? I walk into SVS room, they're rocking a full, what was it, 5.2.2 system, man. And I was like, yes, this is where it's at. And so you guys love that, and I do too. And so we just wanted to provide more of that, because most people say, I don't have an option to hear this stuff. I don't know anybody that's into home.
So before I ask another question, and we're freezing there for a second.
We can provide that at a show and get them connected with some.
Yeah. I did want to give just the details, because before, we get into any more questions, it is happening all weekend long, I should say. It's at the Kansas City Convention Center, so right downtown. It's a awesome spot down here. There's tons of restaurants, tons of great stuff to do. So you can make a whole weekend of it. You can get tickets right from the MWAVE website. You just Google Midwest AV Experience. You'll be able to find it easily. And again, there's single-day passes, 2-day passes, and tons of exhibitors here to experience multiple awesome systems. So we'll be doing a seminar on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, diving into all things subwoofer, calibration, setup, placement, anything you would ever want to know about subwoofers, we'll be diving into. So we're excited about that as well. But it's just a great opportunity to educate yourself and have a lot of fun, and just hear some of the sickest systems that I think you'll ever hear in your life, frankly, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, there's some big systems here as we've been looking around.
So I did also want to ask, you're doing these VIP tours now, and you have this sort of these people that you work with through your channel and whatnot, and you've built sort of a community. And I want to just kind of dig into that a little bit and have you explain like what inspired that element of this event, to have sort of going to actual people's houses and making that a reality.
So honestly, that's super challenging. Even just the logistics of getting these, groups. This year we divided it into 2 groups so that they were smaller, have a more kind of intimate experience. You don't have 30 people in somebody's home. But the reality is that one of the biggest challenges that people say when they're building a home theater, they haven't had any experience with anything. We've got people that come to the show that say, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody's system but mine. And so it allows them to see different shapes, different sizes, different brands, different ways that they incorporate bass and how they calibrate. And then we love to allow them just some opportunity to pick their brain, ask all the questions that they want. Some of the things that they asked this past tour was, if you could go back and do it over again, what would you do differently? What did you learn? And so there's education there. It's just a fun time. And this year we've even invited, I think there's 9 content creators, including myself, that'll be at the show. We just happen to have another one in the car with us.
Right, shotgun here. One of our old friends who I think has experience with a PB16. What's up, Chris? Chris.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I've enjoyed myself so far. It's nice to actually meet Mike out here and actually get get used to seeing some actual home theaters out here other than my own. That's one of the things he said. I was one of those people. I don't really get to see some of these tours. Now I think I want to start going around the country and looking at some home theaters.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a lot of fun. And I wanted to ask sort of the inspiration behind an event like this and what inspires people like Chris to actually come out here. And I think you sort of explained it just right off the jump there. But, what about this drew you to the event, Chris?
So just not only to do something typical like a trade show or something like that, you've been to those 1,000 times. They're all kind of similar, and you get to see a typical setup. Like you said, maybe 2-channel, maybe a couple of products. But this is a bit different in that, like you said, you get full setups. You actually get to go around and see other people's home theaters, be around people who are like-minded, and get to actually see a setup and how they would do it instead of how everybody else tells you should do it. Because as you know how opinionated people are, especially like AVS forums and stuff, everybody has their own opinion.
Really?
Setup may just be the right one for you, and you get to see if other people actually like it. So I think that's what I'm here for. And of course, to meet people and actually be around other people that I think have the same love and passion that I have, and just to be able to enjoy ourselves.
Are you actually saying that hearing a home theater is part of evaluating it, actually hearing it?
Believe it or
what
not,
a concept.
And yeah, it's like people are so opinionated. I'm like, 1,000 people would have told you that was the wrong way to do it, but we all loved it. You know, so that's huge, and I think that's not something you get in a lot of places.
No, and I love the spirit of collaboration that's come out of this. That
Definitely,
Michael and everyone put together. I mean, we don't view all these other brands here as competitors. We're all like-minded in terms of what we're trying to do and spread the word. And
Speak for yourself.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play the diplomatic answer here, but obviously, you got to sell stuff at the end of the day. But it's about making great sound and having fun with the setup and answering questions and education and this sense of community. And I think if we all sort of band together, it's better for the industry as a whole. I'm a firm believer in that rising tide lifts all boats mentality. And so events like this absolutely help galvanize the community in a way that I think you just can't do it virtually quite as well.
It's funny. I've been shooting shorts this whole weekend, and I just realized I'm holding this phone vertically.
I wasn't gonna call you out for it,
So let me know. No, I bet if I turn it, it doesn't know that I've got it.
You're in a car. You get
And they are not
forgiveness.
driving. I see people commenting.
I get a
they're
pass,
sitting in the back.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was
chauffeur.
driving at first. I was a little
You
worried.
got an MWAVE chauffeur taking them all over the place. So part of the VIP experience.
We're in the middle of a traffic jam.
But we're excited, man. It's going to be a great weekend. And people have been registering literally yesterday, today. So it's cool, man. We're probably over 250 people right now. It's
Oh, I
phenomenal.
love that.
Last year
We're
we
looking
had
forward to entertaining some folks, educating some folks, and looking forward to seeing you guys here come by and hear some of the SVS gear we got set up. But safe travels. Enjoy those home theater tours. We'll be watching the shorts. If anyone else wants to sign up and come down, you're in the area, go to Midwest AV Experience, find it, and you can get your tickets and come down and get them in person too.
Yeah, and I'll be stopping by you guys' booth to interview you and talk about what you brought to the show, sharing it with my audience as well. So we're looking forward to that conversation.
Love
Thanks
it.
for having
Thank you,
us,
man.
guys.
Thank you, Chris. You guys take
Thank you,
care.
guys.
Thanks,
Y'all
guys.
take care.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. And I think we got to talk a little bit more about our presence, but I did want to throw something out there to the community. We are in Kansas City, and I know we have a bit of a barbecue snob here coming from Texas, but
hey, you're a barbecue snob too.
But I want to know if anyone has been to the Kansas City area, if you can recommend your favorite barbecue spot. Larry and I would like to go on a progressive dinner throughout the weekend and find the best burnt ends or whatever we can in terms of barbecue. So throw them in the comments. We'll be paying attention. And we're looking forward to a meat coma later tonight.
We've got plans for tonight. We're gonna go stuff our faces
I
with
think
burnt
Jack
ends.
Stack. Yeah, I think Jack Stack's where it's at. I heard somebody or saw somebody ask, where is MWAVE? It's in Kansas City. We're in Kansas City, Kansas. I should be clear, not Missouri.
Yes.
Kansas City, Kansas. Well, are you guys cool if we walk through the system that we have here before we move on into our normal content
And then we'll
recommendations
explain what
whatnot?
we're doing tonight.
Yeah. For sure. So, since we're on the MWAVE topic, why don't you tell them what we got set up here? And I'm going to try some loose camera work here. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Sit right here. You can do that. So, what we have in this space is we have set up a 5.2.4 Dolby Atmos home theater, and I think it's one of the larger systems we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so behind us there, you'll see our front stage with the front left and right are the prime Pinnacle Towers, along with the Ultra Center right there. And then behind Nick's head, there's a PB16-Ultra on the left and on the right. And we are powering this with a Marantz Cinema 50. So we've got, that's our front stage and the two subs. You're running out of cord.
I know.
I don't know why I whispered. It's
That's
not
all
like
right.
you guys
That's
can't
okay.
hear it. And then on the sides, we're doing two pairs of prime elevation. We've kind of set them as front, middle, rear height as well. And bringing it all together in the back, we have a pair of prime bookshelves on stands. So that is the full speaker setup with the two subs.
Oh, and then we have to mention, we've been partnering with our friends from Nebraska Furniture Mart, and they have set up a 115-inch screen here with an Epson LCD 3 laser projector, which beeps. You get close to it, it starts beeping at you so it doesn't fry your eyeballs.
Yeah, Joe's pulled cord.
And so the display here, not quite as good as the sound, but incredible and much better than sometimes we have like a 55-inch TCL. So
normally
we're
using
with this bad boy right here.
Screen. So
For
this
sure.
would be a blast. We also have Prime Wireless Pro bookshelves, Soundbase Pro with a pair of Prime bookshelves we're going to set up too. Man, I love all these restaurants. Sorry, we're getting distracted by food.
I know.
We're hungry.
I have to go back and look at it.
But we're going to have a blast. And we've been looking forward to this event for a while. So we're going to play some new demo content for you all too. and just get stupid loud.
That's right. And these rooms are pretty massive. And, some of the other exhibitors have, 4, 8 subwoofers. And, we have our 2 PB16s.
There's
And
one room with 12.
we were energizing this space pretty darn well. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun here in terms of a friendly rivalry between rooms and people who come out. They won't forget the experiences they're going to have here. So
somebody's asking how we found out about the eye burning thing. So when you walk up on this and you get anywhere near it, it beeps and shuts off. And I'm guessing there was an issue with previous models.
It's a laser.
Not doing that. And, you got free LASIK. You just couldn't see after.
All right. Well, that's our MWAVE talk for the day. I'll tease one more time. Larry is doing a seminar and I on subwoofers. We're going to live stream that on Facebook and YouTube that will be available to sort of set an appointment or notification as of tomorrow. But that will be something you can tune into virtually. You don't have to be here. And if you are coming out here, we're also doing a giveaway of our Prime Wireless Pro powered speakers. So make sure you ask us about that if you come out here. But that's a nice segue to giveawees that we have for the evening. And Larry, what are those awesome giveaways?
We've got some awesome ones, and I think it's almost time for one here in a minute. But we're going to kick things off with a pair of Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers. And then after that, we've got an SB1000 Pro subwoofer. And to kind of wrap things up, we've got a PB2000 Pro subwoofer with the SoundPath subwoofer cable as well. So
and all you have to do to be eligible is leave a comment. You leave a comment, you can make fun of us, you can compliment us, you can ask a question, but that makes you eligible. We choose people at random. Reach out, get your contact information, get that product shipped out. So that's all you need to do to be eligible is leave a comment. And we see lots of great barbecue recommendations. So maybe with the winning barbecue place, we'll get lucky enough to get a prize tonight. So we'll have to see.
We'll take a picture of what we're eating for you.
All right. Well, I feel like we've talked enough. And Gary, you're smiling. That's a good sign. So maybe you have some good content recommendations or concerts you've been to recently you want to riff on here for a minute?
So actually the opposite. I'm going to tell you about a very horrifying experience I had where I was stuck in Europe and we were trying to get on a flight and rushing and ended up on this 8.5 hour long, actually I think it was closer to 10-hour long flight. And I realized all I had on my laptop was the entire season of Emily in Paris and Ted Lasso. And it really was my personal version of hell. I didn't mind the first couple seasons of either of those shows, but this was really, really heinous, really terrible. I don't know what other people think about it. I mean, I think I've heard some buzz that Ted Lasso was not well received the last season, but I was stuck with nothing but that to watch. So that was a terrible experience. On the other end of the... Have you heard that, Larry, or did you see it?
I love Ted Lasso.
I like the first 2 seasons. I feel like the season 3, it just got, I don't know. Maybe
they got a little busy, but season 1 and 2 are 2 of my all-time favorite television shows ever.
Well, I'm going to look in the comments and see if everyone agrees or disagrees with me. And then, but on the other end of the spectrum, my sons and I they wanted to do this, and so we're doing it. We're going to all 4 days of Lollapalooza in Chicago. So I haven't done that 4 days of music ever. I've never done it. Nice. And I'm a music nerd, but this might be over the top for me. And my sons are like, we're going to do this, Dad, but you're going to see different kinds of music that you don't know about. We're going to make sure of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. So I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Because there's a ton of bands there. And don't say the Red Hot Chili Peppers because we already know that.
Well, I mean, there's 3 really great live experiences. There's Billie Eilish, who I adore. My son, and I told my sons, you got to go too. She's really great live. And then Kendrick Lamar, who is all 3 of us. He's one of our heroes, and he's one of the nights. And then I say Red Hot Chili Peppers is the best live experience there is, and they're closing out the whole thing. They're the final show on the 4th day.
Well, I'm a little bit jealous because I would have loved to go to Lollapalooza, but maybe next year we'll do a team trip. How about that? Can we put you on the spot for that one?
Yeah,
it's not too far away from Youngstown.
Let's take 4 days. I think the entire team, let's go to Chicago for Lollapalooza.
It's an immersive experience.
Yeah.
Remember when we had our team trip to a Tool concert? It was so much fun.
Oh, that was awesome. So yes, my vote is for that for sure. All right. What have you been tuning into recently on these hot days of summer?
We're watching Jack Ryan again from the beginning, me and my significant other Nancy. It's been a couple years since season 1, and I'm really enjoying rewatching it. And the reason why is season 4 came out, as most people know. So we're mostly through season 1 at this point and looking forward to the next 2, and then of course swinging right into season 4. At that point, several episodes should have dropped. But Jack Ryan's just it's so good. Amazing production values, very relevant on a geopolitical basis. So it's one of my favorite series.
Rewatching. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved the first season. I
did that
never
with
got to
Ted
the
Lasso
second.
too. Before
And we
Can I
watched
say
The
one
Witcher.
more?
My son and I watched the Witcher.
We
The
still
first
not
part of
under
this
there.
season. That was I noticed that in the comments, and it sparked my memory. I thought Witcher hit its stride this season. It just everybody felt loose and comfortable. I like the plot line. They had interesting use of different perspectives on one episode. So I think Witcher's definitely a recommend if you're into that genre.
Can I say one more thing?
You sure may.
I forgot to mention that we're big boosters of Washington Performing Arts. SVS is. I personally am. Nick, now you're definitely on the program for that, I know. And they just launched their 2023-2024 season. So anyone in the DC area should go onto that site, because today I believe is the first day. I'm a supporter, so I got to do the pre-sale, but today is the first day, I believe, or one of the first days where you can just go in and buy tickets, whether you support them or not. And they have some amazing artists, including Yo-Yo Ma, Andres Schiff, who we sponsored before, remember, Nick, and others. So if you're in the DC area, this is a great time. The tickets are relatively affordable, and if you do it in the summer before the season starts, you can get the best seats in the Kennedy Center or Strathmore Hall,
which are amazing sounding venues. Am I right? Like those are some of the best.
Especially Strathmore
venues.
Hall is one of the best sounding venues probably in the U.S. And they fixed Kennedy Center is known to be a little bit dry, but they fixed it. And as far as I'm concerned, those are two of my favorite ways to experience music.
Well, before we get to your recommendations, Larry, we are going to do a giveaway here first. And the first giveaway of the evening is a pair of our Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers, an amazing all-in-one speaker system. And the winner of that is one Mr. Sean Cahill. Cahill, congratulations. We'll get your information and get those sent out to you. Now, Larry, I'm going to make you go last because you saw something that I'm most excited to see, so I won't even bring it up. But I have to give my teaser. There's something coming down the line. I am a huge Willy Wonka fan, and there is a new Wonka, what do they call it?
It's the story of how Wonka
origin. It's an origin story, and it's got
Timothy
Chalamet, and
Chalamet.
But I love that whole franchise, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I've read all the Roald Dahl books, and I find them fascinating. And I thought Johnny Depp was amazing and weird, and so I'm very much looking forward to Wonka. I've also been watching Witcher, and I agree with you, Ed. I'm only 2 episodes in. And I did like the end of the first season more than I've liked these first 2, but I think it's probably going to ramp up here, and I'm going to probably eat those words. But very into Witcher. Black Mirror, not as weird and edgy as I thought the first season would be, but I just love sort of the contemporary take on media, and they're sort of digging back a little bit into older culture as well. So I just love what the Black Mirror, what they're doing with some of their episodes as well. I've been into The Bear. If you're a foodie and you love restaurant culture, if you've ever worked in a kitchen, then The Bear is amazing. It's on Hulu, I believe.
Yeah, FX
Hulu, and just a great sort of high intensity, what it's like to work in a very pressure cooker kitchen.
It looked pretty interesting.
What a bad pun, dude.
Really bad. And then
I don't think they use pressure cookers in real kitchens.
No, probably not. And then my sort of junk food that I've been watching, and I just always seem to have it on once or twice a week, is Naked and Afraid. I just can't stop watching Naked and Afraid. I don't know if it's just it's always the same. It's like, you don't have enough water. It's too hot. The bugs eat us all night. But somehow I feel like I'm learning something where if I ever need to survive on my own, I'll remember some of the skills that
you can wipe with
these people have.
stuff.
So
not exactly. You should take a survivalist course instead of watching Naked and Afraid. I think you get a lot more out of it.
It's comfort, though. I can't sit in my living room with my popcorn and soda and enjoy it as much. I'll actually be getting bitten by flies. Like, who wants that? No, but I do love me some Naked and Afraid. So with that, Larry, you've got a
but
big.
Why are they naked? And they don't show them naked. My wife loves this show,
butt.
so I sometimes get stuck with it, and I just don't get it. They're naked, but you don't get to see them naked. So why are they naked? Why make them naked?
It's
Can you
pitting them
explain that
against
to
the
me?
elements. It's just the purest, rawest form of the human being, and
Right.
no
No,
protection.
but they used to be truly like they had nothing. Now they give them like a pot and a flint, and like they give them some resource. And you were always able to bring a knife or something. But I just enjoy the struggles and the tribulations that these people have and what they have to overcome.
Yeah.
All right.
If you say so.
These are some. I would say these are probably the worst recommendations we've ever done. From all of us.
Too real for you.
We're gonna do better.
Look at this comment. I like this one right here. This guy knows me. Naked and Afraid with some bourbon and chips, criticizing when they're dumb. Best thing ever.
Yeah, take a shot when they make a bad decision
Jim
or
Bob.
something.
Yeah. See,
Doug.
he's on the wavelength.
Yeah.
He's on the wavelength.
That's what
We got
pro
Larry.
wrestling is for, in my
Yes.
See, way too fake.
I've been traveling a lot, and so I've been taking that time to get kind of caught up on TV shows and occasionally go to movies and stuff. And so I finally started the series Luther on Amazon, BBC, and I've been enjoying that with Idris Elba. And I'm in the middle of the final season so that I can watch that movie that came out on Netflix. I saw The Flash a few weeks ago.
How was that?
Concert. It was too long. It was enjoyable.
This is a spoiler, but
No, dude, no spoilers for people.
It's not a spoiler, but like the cameos that they hype in the commercials.
Yeah, there was a lot.
A little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There was just a lot.
Maybe the
to
trailer's
movie.
better than the movie.
Yeah,
Q-head.
seeing Keaton, was really cool. Then been seeing some concerts. My wife and I went to go see Garbage with Noel Gallagher and Metric a couple weeks ago, and that was just a phenomenal show. And Shirley Manson and Butch Vig and Steve and Duke, all those guys still have it at 60. We're gonna go see some more shows soon. Our kids went to Portland this week with my wife's brother and his wife, and so we had an empty house, and somehow we ended up at a RuPaul Drag Race show on Friday night, and it was just a blast. I can't tell you how crazy that crowd was and stuff, so that was a ton of fun. But last night, I went to see a movie I've been waiting 5 years to see, and that was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yes.
And I saw it here in Kansas City. It's the headquarters of AMC Theaters. So their theaters are like a little step beyond a lot of the other theaters around the country. And I saw it in IMAX. I do prefer Dolby Cinema. But I was just grinning ear to ear the whole damn movie, smiling, like tears of joy from the action sequences and stuff too, just from laughing and like holy crap moments. And I came out and I was telling friends, I told Nick this earlier, I don't know if it's possible for any movie ever to top what they've done with the action set pieces that this movie had. And I will, right now, I'm saying that with 100% honesty, no exaggeration whatsoever. Unbelievable what they accomplished in this movie. So
The whole
gauntlet
franchise is amazing.
and they just keep upping the ante. Yeah.
Super.
And Tom Cruise mixes all the sound. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys knew that.
But that's why we've got the opening menu of the Mission Impossible movie going behind us, and
Hopefully by
We'll be
CES we'll be able to get a copy of the Blu-ray.
Maybe.
We'll be able to
Oh my
find
God,
one of those
Dude,
demos.
there's like a 25-minute car chase, and I'm not going to spoil anything. Remember, this is known out there, and if you all know, I am anti-spoiler. For me, movies are a chance to get out of my head, and I did that for 3 hours last night.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
I will
Thumbs
definitely
up,
be seeing
right?
that
Oh,
Right.
totally. I'm going to go see it again. I may make Nick go
I
see
heard
it in
it
Dolby
kills.
Cinema so he can see it.
for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, we had our special guest a little bit earlier today, so we thought because we've been at all these events for the last few happy hours, we would do an extended Q&A lightning round since we've got a little bit of a backlog of questions and we have all these great minds here. Like, why not? So if you guys are cool with it, we can dive right into some questions. And we have to understand here that there are some folks who might be tuning in for the first time. So if we maybe retread a question or two or answer something that might be perceived as obvious. That's okay. We'll move through them and we'll get through a lot of information. And this first question comes from Tim Lucido, and he asks, what's the difference between SB and PB in relation to our subwoofers, and is one better for home theater?
So I can start with that, and Ed, maybe you can go after me. SB means sealed box. It's our sealed cabinet subwoofers. That means that it's a driver in a cabinet where there's no ability for the air to leak out, which sounds like an obvious thing, but actually it's a process of manufacturing where we test every single subwoofer for air leaks, because if you have a sealed box that has leaks, you kind of have the worst of both worlds. So I just point that out. And then PB means ported box, and that is our ported cabinet subwoofers. Those are our subwoofers that have specially acoustically tuned ports. Now, the ported subwoofers, because you're basically benefiting from the forward and the backward motion of the driver. You're getting the full experience, and the driver also can move a little bit more freely. You get the benefit of it's going to play a little bit louder at its peak, and it's going to go a little bit deeper at its extreme low frequencies. So a lot of people like to choose ported subwoofers for home theaters. But they do get sometimes a little bit of a rap for not being as tight and accurate as a sealed box. Sealed box tends to be thought of as being much more accurate, but not necessarily as not necessarily capable of playing as loud. So they're often thought of as being a more musical subwoofer. And to some extent, I would agree with that. But SVS has worked really hard to make our sealed cabinet subwoofers capable of playing really loud and going really deep and remaining super musical. And our ported subwoofers, they do have the benefit of going a little bit louder and a little bit deeper, but they're not sloppy, they're not boomy, and they're capable of being musical as well. So there's no clear answer, and a lot of times I would say call us and work with us we'll figure out your priorities, what you want to do, the size of the room, the other equipment you're connecting it to, because it's not a hard and fast answer. I would say in a 2-channel situation where you're exclusively listening to music, I would definitely aim you more towards a sealed cabinet subwoofer. Ed, anything you want to disagree with or add to?
Well, you know, one of my favorite sayings is there's nothing a ported box can do that a sealed sub can't do better except max output. Right. And in my own system, I favor sealed because of the reasons Gary mentioned. It's a little bit more of an accurate subwoofer, and you just need to add more to get the output that you want. And also, let's not forget our friend room gain. In a room with decent room gain, sealed subs can go very, very deep with augmentation from the room. And I've seen our sealed subs get down to 10 hertz or even a little bit deeper in room.
And that to riff on that a little bit, SVS, we're the only brand that does acoustically tuned room gain. I mean, we have really sophisticated 50 megahertz analog devices, DSP, and it allows us to granularly tune so that the room gain is accurate. You're not getting a boomy experience in the room. You're getting just more bass, a better experience, basically using the room to load the subwoofer. And it's really a cool experience.
It is.
And the other thing I would add is the ported subwoofers tend to be almost twice as big as the sealed relative to their driver size and the amplifier power. You know, if those things are equal, the cabinet's going to be twice as large. And our ported subwoofers do allow you to plug the ports and change the frequency response, so they actually can run in what's called sealed mode, which gets you the lion's share of the way to what you would get from a actual sealed cabinet subwoofer. So you do have the ability to tune it in that way to get a little bit tighter, more musical bass. But sticking on the topic of subwoofers, Brady D asks, he's looking to add another SVS subwoofer. He already has an older cylinder that's no longer available. Cylinder is our sort of tall, vertically aligned cabinets with the downfire and driver. Yeah. But he wants to get a standard style. What would you recommend?
So we would want to know exactly which cylinder he has, but a cylinder subwoofer, and that's a thing that only SVS does, basically takes the exact experience of a ported box subwoofer and does it in the configuration of a cylinder, meaning it's a round tube that only takes up about 16 inches of floor space, but sticks up about, depending on the model, 3 or 4 feet off the floor, and allows you to have a ported box experience without using as much floor space. So with that person, I would, they could work with us on which cylinder they would get to match up with that. Or if they wanted to, they could use one of our ported cabinets, which are basically the cylinder subwoofer experience is a ported box in cylinder mode. They're going to be perfectly compatible. You agree, Ed?
I do. More than likely, given what I know about our PC models historically, probably a PB1000 Pro, PB2000 Pro, or PB3000. One of those three would be a good match to a legacy cylinder, as Gary said, depending on the model.
Definitely.
Good question.
Yeah, so let's keep looking at this here. We have another question come in from Josh Woodbury, and it says he's got a particular Pioneer receiver, the VSX91. I think I'm familiar with that one. And he's asking about when he's playing an Atmos disc, it's converting it to DTS master audio as opposed to playing Atmos, and is trying to figure out what's causing that. And I can tell you right off the bat, most of the cases, if you're watching a Blu-ray or 4K disc, and you pop it in and you're not seeing Atmos come up, if it's not already defaulted on the menu disc, you've got to choose that. But most cases, it's an audio setting in the player. And it's something that's just recently started being addressed by the manufacturers of players, where previously, if you've got a player that's maybe a year, 2, 3 years old, or a video game system that is capable of Atmos, you actually have to go into the menu settings and make some adjustments to allow for Atmos to operate. And the number one thing is turning off this thing called secondary audio.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of opens up the ability to do Dolby Atmos. So it could simply be a quick setting in the Blu-ray player, the 4K player, PlayStation, Xbox, something like that, and adjusting the HDMI audio output. But it could also be, maybe you're not using HDMI.
I think there's a setting in the receiver, Larry, too, where he sounds like he might be doing a forced conversion over to DTS instead of setting it for auto decode. I agree that the player should be set up for bit streaming, and then you pick the soundtrack you want, if it's Atmos or DTS and DTSX, and then in the receiver it should be set for auto decode. So whatever's coming in, it does nothing with that except play it back. If you're seeing it sort of jump over the fence and doing DTS when you've selected Atmos in the Blu-ray player, it's definitely a setting in the receiver where you're doing a forced up conversion.
Yeah, it was fun. We opened a brand new Sony 4K player today, and the first thing I do when I set up these rooms is I check the menu settings.
Yep.
And I thought it was really nice that it's all already finally, after like a decade, finally set to where I don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. So check the menu settings. You've got to be using HDMI because optical and coaxial aren't going to do it.
Nope.
And if you have a home theater system, I'll just say this all to everybody right now. Run everything to the receiver, all your HDMI connections from all your devices, and then just run an HDMI output to your TV, and it will solve a lot of your issues. And then making sure you're using an up-to-date HDMI cable too.
And use the ARC connection so that if you're using your TV as a streaming device, it has the ability to talk to the receiver and send that audio signal back to the receiver. That's your two-way street, ARC and eARC.
So we had a viewer who was reading some reviews of speaker systems, and there was a couple terms that he wanted to get just a better definition of. So Gary, maybe this is a good one for you. What does it mean if somebody has a coherent sound stage, and how do you achieve that with a system? Coherent sound stage.
So that means, in a stereo situation, and actually I would even say this is true of a home theater, although they kind of get there different ways. What's going on in front of you should be sort of a sonic tapestry of what you're hearing. In other words, if there's a guitar player who is to your left, but not all the way to the left, he should sort of, or she should be it's sounding like they're coming from in between the two speakers, but towards the left side from a specific point in space. And same thing for the right side, and same things for other instruments. And that's also true really in a home theater. Now, when they say coherent, what they really are saying is that the two speakers are so accurate and in such perfect sync with each other that they're working together to create this sound stage. When the speakers are of lower quality, they're going to be less likely to create that experience of the sound coming from a specific point in space, because for the simple reason that the two speakers are not perfectly in sync with each other because they're not that accurate. And that's what what coherent basically means: easy to understand or easy to perceive. Like, hopefully my explanation just now was coherent. Same deal with the speakers.
It was good.
It was concise.
Yeah, we're going to do another giveaway, but there's a couple other review terms I wanted to run by you before we do it. Our next giveaway is our Compact Powerhouse SB1000 Pro sealed cabinet subwoofer, and the winner of that sealed cabinet subwoofer is Crystal Potenza. Crystal Potenza,
Awesome.
Congratulations. You got some sweet bass coming your way. We'll get your information and ship that out. So these are two terms that actually I'm not 100% sure what they mean, but I'm going to throw them out there. I think they relate to speakers, but if a reviewer refers to attack and decay when referring to the performance of speakers, what is attack and decay?
So I'm going to say attack, and I'll let you do decay, Ed, unless you want me to do decay. Because attack is one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. Attack kind of means the sense of sort of impact that you feel from each instrument being hit. A lot of speakers don't do this well, I guess. And when you're in a live performance, the attack is perfect because you're perfectly experiencing it in real time, and it's really happening right in front of you. So if a string is plucked, you hear that string and you feel like you're in the room with it. When speakers don't do well with attack, they're recessed in the background, and that sense of being there kind of gets lost in a murky place. I find attack, and I like to show people attack if I'm doing a demo. I find it to be one of the most important ways that a speaker recreates the sense of a live experience. Ed, what do you want to? You can obviously you can agree, disagree about attack, and then you can talk about decay if you want to.
So for attack, I'd like to add just the dynamic range of the loudspeaker is very important. It has to be able to hit that very quickly hit that peak that gives it a sense of realism. People would be shocked actually at the dynamic range of actual instruments. And it's very hard to reproduce that in a system. Decay for me is how long the system hangs around after the signal stops. When the signal stops, the system should stop. And to the extent the loudspeakers have any sort of ringing in the time domain, or the subwoofer has ringing in the time domain, you're going to hear that and sort of perceive that as a sloppiness or a lack of accuracy, where the system's just hanging around and making its own sound instead of stopping when the signal stops.
And you can hear that with speakers and subwoofers. And I think in subwoofers, it's particularly annoying because it makes it boomy. And you're right, you can hear it, but more importantly, you lose that sense of being there because now it just doesn't feel real. Now all of a sudden, because the decay is not accurate, because the decay is there, all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm listening to a speaker. Oh, that's a subwoofer, instead of just enjoying the experience.
Yep. Some people call it overhang as well, especially with the subwoofer. The signal stops and the subwoofer, noticeably continues to make some sound. And that blurs the leading edge of the next transient. So that
absolutely
really
right.
with it.
And guess what? Here's if I'm doing, we always say we're not doing an SVS infomercial here, but I gotta say, it's expensive to not have decay in a subwoofer. You have to. There's no easy way to have that not happen. We invest in a massive motor. We invest in very sophisticated drivers with voice coils that are beyond sophisticated. And we do that because if you don't do that, you really can't prevent that decay that we're talking about.
And the amplifier too. The amplifier controls that that
that's
motor.
true. That's right.
And the DSP has an important contribution there as well.
And to point out about the subwoofer amplifier, and sorry, but you reminded me of something, Ed. All of our subwoofers now, from the 16 Ultra series all the way down to the 1000 Pro series, have digital front end amplifiers, because you have to have a digital amplifier. But the output stage is a fully discrete MOSFET output. What that means is that the amplifier is capable of massive amounts of current, and current is how you control the driver's motion. So it's a great point.
Let's go a different direction here. Greg Wong has a question. He's about to mount 4 prime elevations for Atmos, and he was wondering if he should tow them into the sweet spot or just keep them parallel, straight shooting into the room.
That depends.
No, I think there's an answer
that
to
anymore.
that. You don't tow them in, because the prime elevation is a speaker that has outstanding what's called off-axis response, meaning it doesn't matter what direction you aim it, you're going to hear it in a good way. So it's designed to mount facing out from the wall or out from the ceiling if you ceiling mount it. And the way, I think, do you guys have 4 in that room? Did I see that? I didn't even notice that in your tour. That's really cool. If you can do 4, if you can do 4, just do it a pair towards the front of the room, but not all the way in the front, and a pair towards the rear of the room, but not all the way in the rear. And you will have an amazing height effects experience, an amazing 360-degree Dolby Atmos experience.
Listening after we were playing, and that was part of the conversation we had, is that comparing what we do here versus like an in-ceiling speaker or the reflective toppers, the experience is better. And it goes back, you've all heard me say, if you've watched us on the broadcast, when you go to a movie theater, the speakers are not in the wall, they are not in the ceiling, they are mounted on the wall, angled towards seating positions. And that's kind of the way these are implemented as well. And because of the way our speakers are done in that wide image and sound stage that we have, there's a point where all of our channels kind of meet above you. Even if they're off to the side, you'll hear content coming from the back middle of your room, even though there's no speakers there, or something directly up above you, or maybe between the front and rear channel stage because of that. And it's a really awesome experience. And if you get the right content, you get it set up. And I know there's all these things about getting on the Dolby website and finding measurements and getting the right angles and stuff. And I disagree with that typically because of how advanced receivers are now. I don't think everything has to be perfectly aligned any longer, because not everybody's room is a perfect square or rectangle. And once you get the speakers kind of placed in a optimal spot based on your room, and you run room correction and then make your adjustments, I think really any room can be a pretty great Atmos experience if you have the right speakers. And so even here, we're in a 35 by 25 foot room with 25 foot tall ceilings, and we're not going to, we're shaking things in this place that have probably never been shaken, and we're hearing content and sound coming from outside of the listening position, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, I got an easy question. Somebody asked where I got my sweet Hatch Show print t-shirt, and I wish I had a cooler story, but my wife got it when she was on a bachelorette party in Nashville. So thank you, Alex. Love you. But yeah, if you go down to Nashville, you can probably find these at the
We need
actual.
to go to Nashville.
I know. I think we
Nashville's a good
should.
town.
I think that's on the future agenda for an event. But let's keep the questions rolling. I feel like there's good knowledge being shared here. Mark B asks, what is level matching? And Ed, maybe you can give a little bit of advice on what process you do to go about level matching after defining what it actually means.
Level matching generally refers to an AV home theater system. When you run auto setup, one of the things the AV processor does is make sure that all of the speaker channels and the subwoofer are level matched to the same sound pressure level. And that's important because you don't want one channel playing way louder or way quieter than the other channel, because as Gary spoke to earlier, you want that sort of coherent, cogent experience where the speakers literally disappear and it all sounds like it's coming from a sound bubble around your head. Are there exceptions to level matching? Yes. I would say keep them minor, and they are subjective. it's not uncommon after you run auto setup and at level matches to maybe bump up the center channel 1.5 dB to get the dialogue a little bit more forward. It's also common. Sometimes people turn up the rear surround and side surrounds. They want a little bit more of that surround effect. But my recommendation is start from a level match and only deviate small amounts and only for a specific reason. Don't go bananas and change all the levels at once or anything like that, because you're sort of disabling what the receiver is trying to do in terms of making all the speaker channels the same volume.
Good. Well, we have a follow-up question to our ported and sealed conversation. And Ben Smith asks, why would somebody want to run a ported subwoofer in extended mode? Like, what is the advantage of running it in extended mode? I think we talked about the benefits of sealed mode, but what are the benefits of extended?
So our standard tuning, and this is for our variable tune subwoofers. The variable tune subwoofers have what we call standard tuning, and then extended mode, and then sealed mode. Standard tuning mode will get you to 17, 18 hertz in room, which is very deep. And it will also, because all ports are open, it maximizes output from the subwoofer. So if you're really chasing max output and slam and impact, standard mode is the best. You'll still go very deep. Extended mode, you plug one port and alter the DSP setting to extended. Again, the DSP amp is designed to work with the extended mode. Extended mode, you'll get down to 13, 14 hertz in room, so considerably deeper. And there are soundtracks out there that have infrasonics that deep. The Flight of the Phoenix remake with Dennis Quaid, the sandstorm scene where the plane's flying through the sandstorm and then crashes. There's tons of infrasonics in there, 13, 14, 15, 16 hertz. It is noticeably a different experience when you go from standard to extended mode and play that same track again. You can literally feel the buffeting in the room. It's much more palpable in extended mode. So it really is a thing. It's visceral. What are the downsides? You lose a little bit of max output because you're reducing the port area and maybe potentially increase the potential for port chuffing. It's one of those things where you have to try it, and it's the room size and how loud you're playing it and everything like that. I always say there's no downside to extended mode as long as you're not pushing the sub to the point where you're starting to hear, port noise or experience dynamic compression.
So is it reasonable that you may want to run it in extended for certain types of content and, run it in normal or sealed for other types of content? Like, is that one of the ways that you would look at it? It's not like one.
I've got a PB16 in one of my upstairs systems. It's in extended mode all the time. It's just not working hard enough to hit any sort of the downsides possibly with extended mode. So I would say run it in extended mode, experience and enjoy the additional extension that you get from that. And again, I would only go back to standard mode if under extreme conditions you notice some compression or port noise.
Well, we have a question from Larry for Larry.
Well, not this Larry, another Larry. So,
Larry B asks,
just want to know if he's only got a single output on his integrated amplifier, how does he hook up his subwoofer? So I'm guessing this isn't, he's like wanting to connect it. Maybe it says the positive, negative inputs on your subs. So I'm guessing he's talking like the 1000 pros. So there's a couple ways you can go about doing that. I'll maybe expand this answer. If you are maybe running multiple subs off of a receiver or an amplifier that only has a single out, you could simply do a Y connection, or you can daisy chain our subwoofers together. You can also go from the pre-outs, like a front, left, and right pre-out, into our subwoofer, and then back from that out to maybe the next device you're trying to hook up to. But maybe you've got some legacy equipment that does not have a subwoofer output. We do have the ability to, on the back of our 1000 Pros and legacy 1000 series subs, to do a line level input. So you can simply connect that up. Yeah, speaker level input, to hook that up and add that to any of your legacy equipment as well. So there's a couple different ways to go about doing it.
So there are options.
Yes.
I mean, that could be almost a show in itself, how to take legacy equipment and make it work with a subwoofer or some other situation that you're trying to address. And one of the things I would say is that is one of our strengths, is that we have folks that are very used to all these different scenarios, and you can just give us a call. And we don't really obsess over whether it's SVS equipment that you're asking about. We'll help you figure it out, regardless of what the product is. Ed is especially good at this. There's always a way.
Yep.
So, question about our new 3000 in-wall subwoofer. Bill wants to know if he can put one in his couch and one in his ceiling, and is he absolutely crazy for doing so?
Hey, if you got the room, do it. You know?
Listen, I've got one more kid to put through college, so you go for it, my friend. But
Put two in your ceiling.
Yeah. No, it's an acoustic. The 3000 in wall, unlike a lot of integration products, it's completely acoustically sealed enclosure. So for that reason, it really is. It doesn't care whether you actually install it in the wall or not. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you put it in the ceiling, although it's pretty heavy to be in a ceiling. So make sure you know what you're doing if you're going to do that.
Studs at that point
I would not want that thing to
Right.
land on your head.
I agree. Go to the studs if you're going to.
You really need to carefully put it in. It's easier to install it in a wall than a ceiling, but it absolutely can just sit behind your sofa and not be installed at all. You guys, if you're researching it, you'll know that we have a 2-cabinet version. In other words, a 2-speaker version that runs off one amplifier, or a single speaker version that also runs off one amplifier.
We had a question come in this morning. Hey, when are you guys going to make a, under the couch subwoofer? I said, we do. The 3000 in wall, as to Gary's point, is fully sealed. It doesn't need to be mounted in a wall to make it part of the enclosure. And I said, provided it will fit under your couch and clear, you could put that either under the couch or behind the couch and have that great, tactile transducer type experience. I think it's pretty cool because people aren't doing tactile transducers much anymore, unless it's like a super high-end theater. And it's kind of neat to experience that when you're sitting very close to the sub and actually feeling it in your
the easiest subwoofer to do the subwoofer crawl too.
Right, exactly.
You just run some long speaker wire to it. You can just move it with ease. I have been having so much fun introducing our dealer partners to this product, and just the responses from them, and then people that go to shows and stuff where we actually demo it. But I was just in Colorado working with one of our retailers and got to introduce them to it 2 weeks ago, and then taking it to other spaces and doing trainings. And the in-wall, so many people look at in-wall products, and really typically they're just there to add a little bit of mid bass to a system. They're never typically on the same par with like a box sub or a ported sub, and that's not the case with this one. It is a truly magical product, and just the fact that you could lean it up against the wall or slide it under a couch or do whatever you need to do with it. And we've got dealers that are taking them out to customers' homes and aren't physically cutting them into walls. They're, like we say, just sliding it behind a couch or leaning it behind a piece of furniture. And I know there's people out there that are rolling over their couch and just attaching it to the frame and putting it back down. So there's a lot of fun you can have with it.
That form factor really lends itself to sort of unusual or unique installations, as Larry was saying.
The one more very quick question before we wrap things up. We're asking by Josh H. was asking if he's adding elevation or height speakers to his system, how important is it to match the brands? And I would say of all the speakers that you could incorporate into your system, it's probably the least important to match the brands. And I know a lot of people use in ceilings. The Prime Elevation, I mean, it's one of our most popular speakers because it's mixed with a lot of other brands. And I would say because it's handling object-based surround sound and not, that front stage where you need that coherency going from front, center, left, you're able to sort of have a slightly different speaker than what you own maybe in the rest of your surround sound system, and you're not going to really notice anything else as far as like a disruption in the sound field. So I don't know, am I on board with that?
I think slightly different is the appropriate term. I still would be hesitant to say, go ahead and put horn loaded speakers in the ceiling and soft dome tweeters everywhere else. That would be probably an obvious mismatch in timbre. But aside from that, if you're matching the type of tweeter and the tonality, I think it's fine to use something like prime elevations in the ceiling if you own a different brand of speakers.
Well, I mean, the reality is, and I know we're getting close to wrap up time. The reality is prime elevation is, we always work to make our speakers very accurate and neutral. And so for that reason, I do think the height effects, the sound of the height effect speaker is very important. And that's why you don't want an in-ceiling speaker, and you don't want to depend on ceiling bounce from below to create your height effects. And what prime elevation does, it's a unique configuration that gives you direct radiating height effects from a very accurate speaker. And that can't be a bad thing because it's getting matched up, as you point out, Nick, with lots of other brands of speakers. But I think I should quiet down because I think we're at closing time here.
Well, before we do, I did see a question. Are we going to be at Audio Advice Live in Raleigh, North Carolina? And I know we have a lot of North Carolina folks who tune into the broadcast. The answer is absolutely. August 4th through the 6th at the Sheridan Raleigh. We'll be there demonstrating, having fun, doing our thing, doing another happy hour broadcast the Thursday leading up to that show, which I believe is August 3rd. Don't quote me on that.
Because my birthday is the 4th.
All right. So
easy.
that will
And
be
did
our
we do our last giveaway? Because we forgot last show.
Yeah.
new Ninja Turtles movie on the 2nd. Mark your calendars for that. Go see Mission Impossible. Check us out at Audio Advice Live. Come see us at MWAVE this weekend.
Did we do our last giveaway, Nick?
I'm about to. I'm just
okay. All right.
doing the teasers first. But our final
Well,
giveaway.
you did forget last time.
I know I did forget last time. I got too wrapped up, but this one I got a mental note. But our final giveaway of the evening is the amazing PB2000 Pro subwoofer with a SoundPath subwoofer cable, and the winner of that is Joker 26. JOKUR 26. Congratulations, Joker 26.
Batman.
Sweet new ported subwoofer coming your way.
Nice.
So catch us on the next Audiophile Happy Hour, August 3rd, ahead of Audio Advice Live. Come see us at MWAVE if you are in the neighborhood. And thank you for tuning in as always. Happy listening, all.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.